No banner drop, no fireworks, just a decision that feels human and heavy. Inside this franchise, the talk shifted from what can we get today to what are we willing to say for the one move that changes everything. And I'm bringing you straight into that reality with the honesty you deserve as a Laker. I'll show you why the recent choices weren't random transactions, but pieces laid with surgical calm. How our pick structure and salary lanes were organized on purpose. What the on-court language looks like when an apex slasher shares a floor with LeBron and a D. What it would cost in players and futures. Where the risks bite, where the upside overwhelms. And the precise sentence from the front office posture that makes all this real without throwing around cartoon promises. I'm not here to perform hype. I'm here to talk like one of you who stands up off the couch when a screen is set just right in a corner. Shooters' feet are already square. Because that's where championships actually begin. The signals started subtle. The Lakers stopped stuffing the roster with mid-tier, long deals that feel comforting in October and suffocating in June, and instead kept a spine of contracts at tradable sizes that can be combined into clean bridges. They guarded draft flexibility with a patience that looks boring on the timeline, but deadly in a war room. They invested in younger pieces with real, league-wide value, so those names aren't just our guys. They're recognized assets. And they kept enough oxygen in the cap structure to move quickly when the moment demands a sprint. None of that happens by accident. And when you stack those choices, a picture forms of a team preparing for one specific door, not any door. If you've followed me long enough, you know I don't hide in generalities. So let's make this concrete and alive. In this league, the right to dream about a megastar doesn't come from hashtags. It comes from three things. First, outbound draft capital you can legally send in bundles with swaps layered for flavor. Second, a salary spine you can interlock without tripping into hard cap traps or second apron dead ends. Third, a bench ecosystem that can be rebuilt quickly with ring-chasing vets and development hits once the heavy trade goes through. The Lakers have positioned all three carefully, deliberately, stubbornly, and that is why this conversation belongs on a serious channel and not just in a barbershop take. Now, basketball, because a blockbuster only makes sense if the game plan sings. Imagine our offense locked into a few pure ideas that travel in the playoffs. Empty corner pick and rolls that force tag decisions at the nail. Spain actions that turn one screen into two problems. Drag screens that run downhill at a retreating big until the weak side collapses, and slot drives that trigger 45 cuts instead of dead stops. Now put a two-time MVP level downhill force into that canvas, and feel the geometry rewire help arrives a beat late. Rotations get one step longer. Corner defenders have to stunt and recover like their life depends on it. And the easy points at the rim scale up without needing LeBron to pound the ball for 30 possessions. It's not about turning a star into a heliocenter. It's about using a power engine to tilt the floor so everyone's shot quality jumps. With a D, it becomes cruel in the small margins that decide series. Giannis as screener. Short roll to the dotted line, 2-on-1 with the low man. A D lurking on the dunker spot to punish a single false step. Inverted the next trip AD screens. Giannis cuts behind the tag, and the defense must abandon the corner or surrender a layup. Against switches, you slip, re-screen, force a peel switch, and let LeBron play chess with fresh pieces instead of tired isolation. Against drop, live in the pocket and spray the shooters who aren't guessing. They're shot ready because the system tells them when to be still and when to cut. Defense is where the dream stops being romantic and becomes mean. The Giannis AD axis lets you play base switch, 1 through 4 without fear, and toggle to 2 through -5 when needed. Strong side stunts bite earlier, recovery windows widen. And the rim turns into a toll road with a price opponents hate to pay. You can trap with aggression because the backline has 2 erasers. You can live in gaps because arms erase mistakes. And you can survive ugly offensive spells because your stops create runouts and your runouts stack free throws. Series swing on those 5 possessions a night when an opponent thinks. They've created a corner three, and you close it like a door in a storm. I know what the skeptic inside all of us is whispering. Spacing, spacing, spacing. It's a fair concern, and it only kills you if you're lazy. The answer is intention. Keep three credible shooters on the floor with the star duo. Script early offense drag actions so defenders are already moving at the catch. Drill rescreens so the first switch isn't the final switch. Force X-outs to travel across longer distances by packing your best shooter weak side 2 steps deeper. And use guards who don't need the ball to feel valuable. Role players exist for this exact ecosystem tough-minded 3-and-D wings who sprint, screen, and punish open threes. Connective guards who hit league plus on catch and shoots and keep the chain moving. Bigs who will set a real screen, protect glass, and live with a 4-shot night if it means a 12-point win. You fill the bench with that attitude and superstardom bends the rest. None of this matters if the cost is fantasy. So let's be adults about it. A real megastar trade is surgery, not a coupon code. The baseline looks like this. One beloved starter-level guard who can play in any series and is paid fairly. One forward with size and years who matches money cleanly. One rookie-scale piece with upside that other front offices actually want. Then multiple first-rounders spread across the right years with swap sweeteners. Number, it isn't painless. Yes, it will feel like you're saying goodbye to part of the team's personality. And still, the truth of this sport is simple banners are stitched with hard choices and rebuilt depth. The rebuild is where your scouting department earns its rings, veteran minimums who know exactly what to do, mid-season B-outs who bring a single elite skill, two-way flyers who become rotation players by May because the environment is clear, demanding, and honest. Risk lives everywhere, and I won't insult you with fairy dust. Health management becomes a daily craft. Shooting variants will punch you a few nights a month. The CBA's new apron rules narrow your wiggle room on the fringes. And fit isn't a Lego set chemistry, takes reps, sacrifice, and language that everyone buys without eye rolls. The counterpoint is equally real. 3 stars with defined usage curves keep each other fresh. RIM pressure and free throws stabilize the offense when jumpers are cold. Size and length make you matchup proof. And a front office aligned on identity makes the 7th, 8th, and 9th man acquisitions less about names and more about jobs. If you felt me holding one name back, good, that was the point. Because the entire runway I'm describing only makes sense for a particular kind of player. A force who turns your floor into a ceiling and your ceiling into a skyline. Here's the pivot you waited for. Delivered only after the groundwork you deserve. Rob Pelinka has, in essence, confirmed the intent that matters. This organization will keep its powder dry and spend future first. Swaps and real players for Giannis Antetokounmpo the moment the window is real. Read that cleanly. It isn't a parade. It's a promise of readiness. It isn't a headline. It's a plan. And plans like this are how big markets act like great organizations instead of loud ones. If you want the human angle, here it is. I think about LeBron at this stage. A genius who can win you a quarter the way a grandmaster steals a middle game. But who shouldn't be grinding 38 minutes of usage in February? I think about a D's two-way brilliance that deserves a partner who tilts the court so he can choose when to be a wall and when to be a knife. I think about the kids and role players who've earned love here and how hard it is to move names that sell jerseys and warm hearts. And I think about the promise the Lakers make to this city every year, to be in the room when it's time to be in the room, to build rosters that can breathe in May and June, to keep a standard that isn't nostalgic, it's active. This is that promise, written in roster math and coaching tape, not just in quotes. If the other side of the chessboard locks in long term, we salute and pivot to a different superstar profile without wrecking our future. If the talks elsewhere ever wobble and the clock hits a leveraged checkpoint, we're one of the tiny handful who can answer the phone with a complete offer in a single breath. I want you with me for the final stretch because this channel lives on your intelligence, if the ask on day. One is a starting caliber guard, a starting forward with size, a blue chip rookie scale, 3 firsts and multiple swaps. Do you say yes? Where is your line on protections? Which shooter archetype do you chase the second the ink is dry, bigger 3-and-D who can guard up, or smaller flamethrower who punishes tags? And how would you stagger the big 3-full overlap in the second and fourth, or long runway for the second unit with 1 star always tethered? Drop your frameworks in the comments, be precise on years and protections. And let's surface the smartest packages to the top, so the whole Laker family is building this like a front office, not a fantasy thread, because that's the standard we keep here. Let me land with clarity so there's no confusion about where I stand after years of watching this team and hours of studying film that most people never see. The Lakers have stopped living day to day and started living by a map. The map points to one thunderbolt. The thunderbolt is Giannis. And the front office's stance confirmed by how they built this roster and preserved their assets is that they will go all in the instant that pursuit moves from theory to possibility. That's not noise, that's posture. And posture is what separates chances you chase from chances you catch. Tell me below if this is the price you pay for a decade-defining duo, or if you hold and aim lower to protect culture. I'm going to read everything and bring the sharpest frameworks into the next breakdown, because the smartest ideas in this community deserve a microphone. If you value this kind of deep, respectful Lakers talk, subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next turn of the plot. I'll keep doing the work and meeting you where you are. Straight talk, clean analysis, and a love for this game that never needs a drum roll to feel real.